Good morning, people. Hope we're all doing well. It is CPI day. Well, CPI has already passed. It's October 10th here today, Thursday. We got one more day tomorrow, pre-market. We got some PPI data that comes out. So let's take a look at what we got, right? There was a lot of anticipation in terms of the CPI data, the first big inflation report, I guess, after the Fed cut rates. And the data that came out, right, it wasn't super changed, but we have seen a slight little baby increase compared to what the expected and the prior values were. We also had the U.S. Initial jobless claims that came out a little more bearish, and it makes sense that the market did pull back a little from this larger rally that we had on the overnight, but from the CPI data itself, right, we pulled back a little bit here. The U.S. CPI, the year-over-year figure was 2.4. It came out as 2.4. The expected was 2.3. The prior was 2.5. So still like a little decrease realistically in terms of that CPI data overall. But what we had from that was a higher number than the expectations, right? We'll leave it at that. And then the U.S. CPI, the month over month, came out a little hotter than expected at 0.2%. Versus the 0.1% expected. And the U.S. core CPI, the year over year, came out at 3.3 versus 3.2 expected and 3.2 prior, while the U.S. core CPI month over month came out at 0.3% versus 0.2 from the prior. So what we're seeing right now is a little rally from some of the key areas that we have here on these equities that we'll talk about, but overall, those CPI figures, they did come out a little hotter than expected, and we saw an initial pull to the downside in these markets. So where does that leave us for today? What else is going on? We have some news out of Tesla as well here. So that report, first of all, with the CPI report, what came out here a little hotter than expected was kind of downplaying the Fed's decision to cut a little more aggressively, right? We came into September with the expectation of a 50 base point cut. They got that because according to them, inflation was creeping down, and they were able to do it so aggressively when economic figures were pretty much good, right? The U.S. jobless claims came out at 258,000 versus 230,000 expected, so that number increased as well. So based on that, right, that kind of negative economic figure, I was expecting to see a little more downside in these equity markets, honestly, but yesterday we pushed into a new all-time high on the S&P. We pushed into, we got a nice move to the upside on the NASDAQ, so we're trying to expand outside of these larger auctions to the upside. And even with the CPI, yeah, we flooded down a little, but we haven't necessarily accepted back into what I would call bearish territory. So there's still bullish pressure on this, right? Until we break areas to the downside. For example, on the S&P, if we break aggressively under that like 58.20 and hold it, that's an indication of some of that sell pressure trying to come in. Ooh, what's going on the NASDAQ? That's another indication that, okay, some of these sellers might actually swing on both of these. Now, Tesla, right? Where is this? Tesla, right? It's finally here. Tesla will hold its We Robot event tonight at 10 p.m. Eastern Time at the Warner Bros. Holiday at the Warner Bros. Hollywood studio near Los Angeles. The event was delayed from August 8th, which raised a lot of expectation that Tesla will show a working prototype and lay out an aggressive autonomous driving plan. And some are hoping that the event will be a significant catalyst for Tesla shares, but a lot of people aren't super enthusiastic or hopeful that we see a lot of bullishness in Tesla based on this event, so we'll see how that kind of shapes up. We'll pretty much see it tomorrow because markets are going to be closed at that time. So what to expect? Well, Tesla has kept the design of the robotaxi a secret. Sources told Bloomberg that the Cybercab has two front seats and two doors that open upward like butterfly wings. And there has also been plenty of speculation that Tesla will show off a new, cheaper model, a robo-van capable of carrying up to 12 people, a new version of the Optimus humanoid robot. Plans for an autonomous semi and other AI use cases are expected. So Tesla has had quite the rally here over, I guess, since we got that dip in August, right? It's pushed up pretty nicely, but we still failed to move too much above that 260 area, right? It still had a 45% rally before pulling down a little. And Wedbush analyst Dan Eves expects that Tesla to unveil game-changing autonomous technology adding to its super powerful robotics AI play in the near future rather than just electric vehicle maker. And of course, there are risks that Tesla underwhelms investors. And if they show something that doesn't actually demonstrate the technology, a prototype of a vehicle that doesn't move, that's going to go over like a lead balloon, warned Deepwater asset manager Gene Munster. So I believe that the robotaxi event is priced into shares, and any movement post-event will result of a tactical and momentum trading, right? An analyst said, and Luca Sochi prefers to profit from Tesla's recent surge and redeploy gains elsewhere. So we'll see. There's a lot of profit targets that are still positioned to the upside on Tesla. So we'll see, obviously, what happens with that robo-taxi event. Now, as we have the markets today, right, there's still some upside momentum building out. It's just, as I'm looking at this on the session here on the S&P, realistically, I would just like the prices to hold above 5820 area. That for me is going to trigger the continued longs, and if there is some kind of larger pullback under that, right, it's expected to go down towards that 5800, where I think it's like final chance. Now that we've expanded, made a new all-time high, it would be such a shame to just break down below and continue the momentum to the downside. That's what happened last time around, and it wasn't a very attractive move. So when we get these situations, when we make a new all-time high and accept back into an auction that we just exited, back into that balance, you're most likely going to undercut the prior lows. So it's very detrimental that the buy side continues to hold this out. And the main and pretty much only area I'll be looking at today is the 5820. How do we trade on the S&P around that? Likewise with 320, 330 on NASDAQ that recently traded, how can we trade around those areas, right? Can we actually hold and propel higher highs, or is that going to be a failure? That's the only thing I'm interested in, because that's going to give me a more clean understanding of what the directional bias looks like in today's trading session. So with that being said, hope you all have a fantastic day. Enjoy, and we'll see you guys at TRADEPRO Academy. Let's open up the room here, and we'll see what happens with the market today. I do want to lean a little more bullish, but it's very detrimental that we hold those two areas that I talked about on the SPOOs and the NASDAQ. So take care, everyone, and we'll wrap it up tomorrow.